As a child of the 80s, I can confidently say that Arnold Schwarzenegger was the epitome of action heroes during that decade. Amongst the plethora of his iconic roles, the three stand out as the cream of the crop: Conan the Barbarian, Predator's Dutch Schaefer, and none other than the Terminator itself. During the 80s, I can't think of anyone bigger than me, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who made this decade his own with some of the most legendary action movies ever created. It all started with my breakthrough in Conan the Barbarian, and it didn't end until the timeless impact of the Terminator. As an Austrian bodybuilder, I managed to carve out a niche for myself as one of Hollywood's most reliable box office draws, and solidified my status as a cornerstone of contemporary pop culture. Known for portraying tough as nails and heroes who left destruction in their wake without batting an eye, the only thing more relentless than my 80s career was my unstoppable drive to succeed. Throughout the 1980s, Arnold Schwarzenegger's most iconic action films were unveiled, with his fierce competition against fellow action star Sylvester Stallone, driving them to constantly outdo each other and produce more extravagant, action-packed movies. During this period, Schwarzenegger portrayed a variety of characters such as fantasy warriors, invincible weapons, and expert special forces personnel, ensuring there was something exciting for every action movie enthusiast. Although the quality of the films may have fluctuated, Arnold's talent, charm, and unwavering work ethic during the 1980s made him the undisputed action star of that decade. In contrast to being the highest ranking among the three sword and sorcery films Arnold Schwarzenegger starred in during the 1980s, unfortunately, Red Sonja ended up at the bottom of the porton. Trying to capitalize on the success of Conan the Barbarian without the backing of a well-known brand, Arnold Schwarzenegger was relegated to a supporting role as Lord Calidor in this Hyborian Age adventure. This lengthy excursion through terror fantasy tropes left audiences disappointed, falling short of the allure of Arnold Schwarzenegger's most memorable fantasy performance. Despite featuring the female lead with Brigitte Nielsen in the title role, this unoriginal journey through familiar cliches failed to match the charm of his best fantasy outing. Arnold Schwarzenegger has openly criticized the movie, saying through Xfinity, "It's the worst film I've ever made. If my kids misbehave, I threaten to make them watch Red Sonja 10 times in a row." While some audiences might find enough campy humor to enjoy Red Sonja as a satire of the genre, the problematic portrayal of a woman who was overly sexualized and dependent on her male counterpart makes it unlikely for modern viewers to rediscover Red Sonja as a hidden gem. Conan the Destroyer marked Arnold Schwarzenegger's initial sequel and signaled his transformation from a generic action hero to a full-fledged movie star whose presence could guarantee box office success. Returning as Conan and Akiro, the Wizard of the Mounds, Conan the Destroyer reduced violence compared to the original and increased self-deprecating humor. Although this humorous approach made for an enjoyable film, it lacked the ominous undertones that distinguished the series in its earlier installments. And while Conan the Destroyer showcased a playful, comic book-like atmosphere, Schwarzenegger hadn't fully developed his comedic prowess yet, making it challenging to strike the right tone. His performances in this film were significantly different from the self-aware wit displayed in Last Action Hero, and the blend of humor and emotional depth he achieved in Kindergarten Cop during the 1990s.
In this sequel, Conan the Destroyer toned down the series' darker aspects that contributed to its success, resulting in a loss of something unique.
During the 1980s, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone had a significant cinematic rivalry. Their competition escalated throughout the decade, with each criticizing the other in media interviews and striving for box office supremacy. A notable instance of this was the simultaneous release of their action movies, Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal and Stallone's Cobra, which hit theaters just 1 month apart. Both films were essentially identical in terms of raw, violent action spectacles. Unlike Cobra, which was a massive hit and has since gained cult status, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Raw Deal received mixed critiques, and failed to impress at the box office. In contrast to the successes of his 80s films, Raw Deal was a departure from the norm, featuring an ex-FBI agent infiltrating the mafia undercover. The film felt overly reminiscent. There were any son of numerous other movies from that era. Although it provided mindless action movie enjoyment, it failed to innovate within its genre and offers few incentives for working on the box. Also rewatch it. By the end of the 1980s, Schwarzenegger had firmly established himself in the world of action comedy, a role he would maintain into the 1990s. In Red Heat, Schwarzenegger played Number, an intense Soviet police officer in an 80s buddy cop movie alongside Jim Belushi's laid-back Chicago lawman character. The pairing proved effective, and while Red Heat leaned heavily action genre tropes, it was guided by Walter Hill's competent direction and boasted two captivating lead performances, ensuring a satisfying viewing experience for audiences. In a nutshell, the movie Red Heat is packed with excessive violence that borders on comic book-style chaos as its protagonists relentlessly blast their way through Chicago. Arnold's serious blasts, watching jobbies from using women that give into a diactive, along with crime at animate and salt and Phillies. I won't write that we have our email of new leader Red Heat. Viewers may need to set aside their expectations for realism. But as an action comedy, it delivers in spades and runs smoothly. In the year 2017, Arnold Schwarzenegger portrayed Ben Richards, a helicopter pilot of a police force living under an oppressive regime. The government had a TV show where contestants that were chased by hired killers as a way to win their freedom. This storyline is adapted from Stephen King's novel The Running Man and provided an exciting science fiction experience that we humorously criticize the growing ruthlessness and sensationalism in today's media. Although its social commentary could have been more profound, it was exhilarating to see Schwarzenegger return the realm of sci-fi 3 years after the phenomenal success of the Terminator. In a brisk and futuristic movie, The Running Man straddled the boundary between thrilling action and humorous satire. The story unfolds as Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is wrongfully accused of causing the deaths of 60 individuals, forcing him to participate in a lethal TV game show. In this high-stakes competition, he's hunted by ruthless opponents known as stalkers, all aiming to eliminate him. If you were to encapsulate the best aspects of Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 1980s into a single film, it would be Commando. It featured high-octane, exaggerated action, a tough, calm, no-nonsense protagonist, and a self-referential sense of humor. Essentially, Commando was a blast from the 1980s, delivering pure fun while telling a heartfelt story about a father who goes into extreme lengths to rescue his kidnapped daughter. In this film, Schwarzenegger played Matrix, a retired Special Forces colonel coerced in executing a political assassination by one of his former underlings. But the word fall is that this is true or not often formed timely. In an exhilarating escapade filled with death-defying leaps from airplanes, pulse-pounding car chases, and a trail of foes left in his wake, the movie Commando was brimming with cornies, one-liners, and offered everything a Schwarzenegger film enthusiast could ask for. Although its storyline was thin as paper, it served as an excellent catalyst for Matrix to mercilessly eliminate his enemies. Nobly, Commando had a significant impact on the action movie genre and paved the way for movies like Strike Commando, Commando Squad, and When Eagles Strike. Before Conan the Barbarian, Arnold Schwarzenegger was known for his 7 Mr. Olympia titles and early acting roles in films like Hercules and New York and The Villain. However, it was Conan the Barbarian that truly showcased his potential as a leading movie star. This fantasy adventure about a barbarian warrior seeking revenge for his parents' deaths is a massive box office hit, resonating with audiences despite unfavorable reviews. Until The Lord of the Rings surpassed its success, Conan the Barbarian served as the standard against which all other sword and sorcery movies were measured. Conan the Barbarian was a fearless and relentless fantasy film that didn't shy away from tranquil scenes to strengthen its world development. Unlike many of Arnold Schwarzenegger's action films during the 1980s, it had extended periods without fight sequences, instead concentrating on creating atmosphere and tension. One reason for its charm was that it allowed audiences to follow Conan as he navigated the ominous undertones of his mystical realm and the survival of the fittest attitudes of the treacherous rogues, combatants, and sorcerers he met. Our gift.
Kicking off as a groundbreaking sci-fi action franchise, the original Predator film boasted an impressive lineup and delivered one of the best 1980s movies in the genre. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger at the zenith of his stardom, paired with the talented Carl Weathers, and helmed by future Die Hard director John McTiernan, it's easy to see why this movie was a hit. Add to that a genuine terrifying alien antagonist whose sole purpose was to hunt and prey, and you have all the ingredients for an action movie and classic. If you're a Arnold Schwarzenegger shown in this portrayal of Vietnam War veteran Dutch Schaefer, a character whose memorable quote, "Get to the choppa," might rival "I'll be back" from the Terminator as one of his most iconic lines in film history. The jungle setting, menacing monster, and straightforward character development of Predator made it an action-packed hit that met all of the necessary criteria for success. With a lasting impact that has kept the franchise alive to this day, Predator stands among the best action films starring Schwarzenegger, regardless of the era in which they were produced.
And when it comes to them right next to these running books, in reflecting on Arnold Schwarzenegger's most iconic action films from the 1980s, there was only one standout title, his groundbreaking portrayal in General Relentless Assassin Machine, sent back in time to eliminate the future savior. Schwarzenegger immortalized himself as the T-800 cyborg first introduced in 1984. Over the years, I've seen him and reprised this role multiple times, and it remains a testament to the film's enduring legacy. For me, the Terminator is the epitome of science fiction cinema, seamlessly blending pulse-pounding action with thought-provoking societal commentary, while brimming with imaginative and captivating ideas. Despite the fact that the Terminator was already highly promising on paper, it wouldn't have achieved nearly as much success without Arnold Schwarzenegger. His portrayal of the sunglasses-donning, AR-18 rifle-carrying, menacing assassin etched him into cinematic history. Add to that some side-splitting one-liners and an electrifying cyberpunk ambiance, and the Terminator became the ideal platform for Arnold Schwarzenegger's spectacular ascent to stardom. It simply doesn't get any better than this. And it's a tribute to its quality that the Terminator remains just as captivating 4 decades later.